Hello, welcome to your channel, Talk to My Teen, the channel that comes with one mission: to empower parents and to be more effective in their reaction and to the changes in their child's behavior. My name is Joe Jacquet. The title of today's video is "What are the parents' limits on disciplining their children?" What are the parents' limits on disciplining their children? We talk about limit, we talk about in terms of discipline, in terms of correction, what are our limits? Do we have a free way to go, or are there boundaries? The main topic we've discussed so far have been centered toward changes in behavior. In our last video presentation, we discussed the way the environment impact or affect our children's behavior, because the environment, we found it to be one of many factors that can affect the changes in behavior of our children. Today we are getting into a very interesting subtopic: discipline, correction. As our children go through their normal and abnormal changes in behavior, parents naturally have a reflex that kicks in, causing them to react in generally three ways: either through dialogue, firm reprimand, and corporal punishment. Now, the last two, depending on the manner in which they are used, can actually put a parent on the hot seat, in hot water. Let's just explore them together. Dialogue, this is simple. This is when there's some changes in behavior and the parent and the child both are willing to talk, to do some reasoning, and in most cases the child is convinced by the parent's logical explanation, and then therefore the changes are redressed or corrected. In firm reprimand or reprimandation, when you reprimand your child, this is when the parents feel that this is not a time for dialogue. They feel that the changes are unacceptable and they need to have a firm tone. They need to address this as a serious matter, and of course they address it, and in some cases they are successful, in some cases it doesn't work. But now the third case is what we call abuse, or either through corporal punishment or neglect or abuse. This happens when the parents are so frustrated by the changes, by the action, that they jump straight into their own action, in most cases resulting in corporal punishment. That's when the parents grab anything they could find and start hurting their children. Now, can we just do that, or do we have a limit? Yes, we do. Remember, we started with this question: what are the limits of what are the parents' limits on disciplining their children? In the United States, and just as any other civilized countries, governments, authorities establish sets of rules and regulations to keep parents, to limit parents' control when correcting their children, when disciplining their children. There are two main factors that are served as boundaries, as limit, to keep parents from getting to the abusive level during correction. The first factor, the first one, is what we call the legal limit or legal ramification. The second one is what we call the psychological limit. Now, in legal, you see the law, right? Let's break these limits down real quick, right? In legal limits, we mostly see a response to either physical abuse, to neglect, to abuse. That's when government stepped in and say, hey, something is wrong here. Something cannot be tolerated here. While the law has provision for parents to use a reasonable amount of corporal punishment, it must not get on the level that will be considered as abuse. Any parent with common sense understands that. If as a mom, I'm working in my uniform, I see this mom with two children on the train, and then one of the child is jumping on the seat, jumping on the seat. The train is moving. The parents is telling them about 3, 4 times, and at some point the parents spank the child over the shoulder. If the parents cannot do that, then who's gonna stop this child? I believe that's our job. Now, at some point, we know we let anger get in the way, but we have to be careful. There's a quick scenario. Years ago, there was a boy in the confine of the precinct I was working. This boy would call 911 almost every day, and just to complain that, oh, my dad is upset at me. My mom looked at me a certain way, this and that. And one of the last time I went to that house myself, this boy was about like 9 years old. He calls 911. He called at the time. When we get there, I asked him, what's the reason he called? He says, listen, he was outside riding his bike without his parents' permission for over an hour and a half. So he came back inside. He found the parents back home. So he knew he was going to get in trouble. So he called 911 in advance. That's what we call, that's calling demand. And I spoke to this child. I said, stop doing that. Stop playing. You can't do that. Your parents are allowed to tell you, do not go there to this place, do not go to that. That's their job. If the parents fail to do that, guess what? Then, of course, you're going to deal with authority. So you're going to cut the nonsense. Now, we do know at times, there's extreme left, there's extreme right. Sometimes the parents are too extreme. Sometimes the children need that type of correction. So each state have their different sets of law. In New York State, for example, we have what we call New York State penal law. You probably have seen this book before, okay? So this is where we find all the laws, law enforcement and the court system found the laws written by your elected official to correct, to address, to make right what is wrong by the wrongdoing by parents or the adult. Now, if you, the book continuously get thicker and thicker. Why? Because every time something new happens, they add a new law on it. For example, those of you who've been around for a while, in 2006, there was a very major case in New York State, the case of Nix Mary Brown. So this young 7-year-old girl died, tortured in the hands of her parents, mom and stepdad, and both of them went to serve time because of this child. This child was tortured, and it was so graphic. I didn't even want to go back and detail that, but you could look it up and you'll see. So because of that, guess what? Every time something like that happens, there are new changes applied to our Administration of Children's Services, what we call ACS or CPS, or Child Protective Services. All these new laws are added because of what people do. And folks, we have to understand that people do some crazy stuff that many times need to be addressed, so that if you let them loose, and then of course it's gonna torture the victim's gonna be the children. So the first factor is the legal limits. The second factor is the psychological limit. The psychological limit, what is this? Folks, as parents, we must do our best to provide and even guarantee a healthy emotional environment in which our children need to grow and develop. That's the duty we have. So it is not just, it's not enough to not do corporal punishment or abuse. It's not enough to say, well, I don't abuse, I don't neglect, I don't this and that. But psychological neglect, psychological abuse is part of it too. It's part of it as well. Some parents would use, harmful language and stuff. They'll tell children, hey, you will never amount to anything. They'll tell their children, you are a sore loser. They will compare one child to another sibling. Those are not good, because, and those scars, they last long. They stay for, I don't want to say forever, but many times they are irreversible. Some of those words that parents can use against their children. Is there a limit in that too? Absolutely. You may not see cases where parents are being charged with a crime for psychological abuse. However, in the long run, there are consequences, major consequences that parents, deal with. That's why you see the children go to school sometimes and they report stories that happen to them, to social workers, to school authorities and stuff. And then before you know it, the schools are mandated to report that to local authorities such as ACS, such as CPS, and then before you know it, you have an ACS agent come to your house, show up at your door, and be aware that when they come in for one case, they will most likely find things that is not proper in your house and stuff like that. So you just open a whole new can of worms. So if you could avoid all that together, we need to know that there are legal limits, there are psychological limits in terms of discipline. Now, what are the lessons? What do we learn from that? The old saying, I put you on earth, I can take you out. This doesn't apply in our world today. So folks, we do have limits. As parents, and guardians, don't be afraid of your own children. We are allowed to bring correction, but within reasonable level that will not constitute abuse. Third, never bring correction when you are upset, very upset. You may end up doing damage that was not your intent. That was not your intention. Wait for appropriate occasion. 4, emotional abuse often leaves invisible scars that are often irreversible. So think twice before you say some harmful words to your child. And what does the Bible say, young man?
Thou shalt not provoke your children.
So, until I meet you again through this channel, Talk to My Teen, one word. Guess what? Keep talking to your children. Keep talking to yours. I'll keep talking to mine. And don't forget, drop a line in the comment section, whether you agree or disagree with what we're saying. Just drop a line, okay? That will help me get more effective in the next video. May the God who blessed you with your children keep you as a safe and successful family together.